Thank you, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to the N2 Continuum broadcast. Today, I'm joined by Reverend Michael J.S. Carter, an interfaith minister, counselor, and longtime UFO experiencer with a background in pastoral care, energy work, and what he calls cosmic energy or space Reiki. Michael bridges spirituality and extraterrestrial contact in a truly unique way. He's also the author of Alien Scriptures and has been featured on shows like Ancient Aliens and Coast to Coast AM. Michael, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for asking me to be on, brother. I'm looking
I,
forward to it,
I,
and I love doing these things. I love it.
I, I have one question that's like been driving me crazy lately, and you're the perfect guy, I think, for this question.
Okay.
And it's like, how deep can we dig on the UFO topic in a space like this? I mean, we're still dealing with people getting canceled. Um, Still, it's like, why is that still going on when I'm seeing this on the surface, things are pop exploding. It seems like everything's being handled from
Well,
what's
well,
up.
okay. That's a great question. I don't know if I know the entire answer to this, but I'll try to come from it from this way. I think that what has happened, Tony, is that the government, our government, the military has taken over the narrative. They have taken over. They're talking about the Tic Tacs. They're talking about USOs, the underwater object. They've taken over. So you're not hearing stories from like people like you and me, not unless they're on media outlets such as this. And so I find it very concerning because they've taken over the narrative and they can decide to tell you what's real and what isn't. And they've basically boiled this phenomenon down to tech, to national security, which is a part of it, to back engineering, those kinds of things. Because if you can control those things, you obviously control the world. But where there are other perspectives, where about consciousness, about spirituality, they don't want that out. They don't want that out. And so, for instance, I find it interesting, like uh, Tim Burkett from the great state of Tennessee. He's on talking about his personal Christian beliefs, which I have no problem with. But he's talking about the Bible and this, that, and the other, which I love. But why not go to the clergy? Why not go to even if they don't agree or whatever? Why? And he's a government person. I mean, he's a politician. Why is it that those narratives are getting pushed and other narratives aren't? I also think that we're naive to think that our government is going to tell us everything. Governments don't do that, and it's
Mhm.
naive to think that. We are already in disclosure, I
Yeah.
think. If you're waiting for someone to come out on the White House lawn and say, guess what? We've been lying to you for 70 years, 80 years, and that's not going to happen. Certain people have to have plausible deniability. People have lost their lives over this stuff. So, what are you going to
Yeah.
say to those people? So, I think it's naive to think that we're going to get all of the truth. If any, there's no voices like yours or mine that's getting the microphone in a broad way. And it's all about who they decide is going to
Yeah.
talk about it. And so it's the same thing over and over and over again. And until that shifts, um, which I think it will at some point. We're going to continue to get this drip, drip, drip. We're going, oh, we're coming out with this, that, and the other. But we're already in disclosure. We've had hearings. I mean, they basically came out and told us that we're not alone. Vice
Yeah.
President Vance said, unfortunately, a week or two ago, in my opinion, I think they're demons. But what he
Yeah.
didn't say was that he didn't say they didn't exist. He just said they're demons. So they're
Yeah.
telling us about as much as they're going to tell us. And right now, I think we have to be satisfied with that.
it's such a strange response coming from that guy, right?
Well, I don't think it is. I think a couple of things. That, for one, it's always about fear, and you have to be able to control the masses with fear. So whether he believes it or not, which I think he does, unfortunately,
Mm.
but it's always fear. See, they're demons, so you need to be afraid so we can protect you. You need
Yeah.
to be afraid, okay? We'll give you the answers when we get them. And so by that way, we're always in control. An educated populace is a dangerous populace. People who are of a deep spirituality all through history, that's not what we want. We want you to be afraid. We want you to be dependent. And so that way we have some control over this narrative. We do not
Mhm.
want to lose control of this narrative.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, this is human ego, and this is where we are right now, collectively speaking.
And in Trump right now, he's talking like we're like a day away or a week away from something he's gonna show us, something that's gonna be monumental. But I think like in this community, and we know it's not gonna be anything new for the general public that's not
No,
glued to
it
this
won't
kind
be
of
anything
content.
new. It
Yeah.
won't be. And he's fighting for his political life. I mean, but with these Epstein files
Hmm.
and what's with this war, so he will say anything
Yeah.
at this point to keep you on bated breath.
Hmm.
So I think that we just have to trust ourselves, do things like this, get around like-minded folk, whatever information we can share. But most important, we need to live the kind of life that we say that we want to be about. And that, to me, that's most important. Waiting back, sitting back passively, waiting for people to give you morsels and give you, that's not a way to live, in my opinion. And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, and that's also kind of like a really interesting thing about this community, the ET community, is like they're already saying that this is disclosure. We are the disclosure, right? Because we are the ETs.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, only because I don't know what that language means. I don't know what that means, but what I do know is that we've already been told, for those of us who are experiencers, we don't need the government to tell us what's already happened to us.
Hmm.
For those of us who've done their research and what have you, but when your government is having hearings, okay, we've had hearings, right?
Hmm.
When you've got people, whistleblowers, you've got Grush, you've got Lou Elizondo, you've got I can go the list that goes
Yeah,
on and on. We're being told, they're telling you, we spent our tax dollars on this. This is what's going on.
yeah,
Now, if you're waiting for someone to come out and say, Michael, you were right, Anthony, you were right, that may not happen. But we're being told that we are not alone.
yeah,
And so, for those people who believe, it's almost like religion. For those people who believe, no amount of evidence will change their minds. And for those who don't believe, no amount of evidence will change their minds. So you
hmm,
have to go on with your life. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You have to live your life, and you keep your hands here and you dabble and you know what's going on. You want to be educated, but to wait each and every, it's today today. Are they going to tell us? Look, is this? To me, that's just not the best use of energy or of life. But
yeah.
it does keep you being controlled.
Yeah, I
You
see
know,
where you're coming from.
yeah.
It's like they're keeping us glued in to this messaging to keep us locked into a mindset and just a kind of perception where they can keep you keep you to keep them in control.
Well, it's even bigger than that. But I like what you just said. I I was listening to this professor on YouTube, and he's controversial and whatever, but he was saying that this, for instance, just use the war, for example. Yes, it's about oil, it's about hegemony, it's about all the suspects, greed, avarice, all of that. He said, but it's also a war where people are trying to control your consciousness. Because if you notice, there's a lockdown. There's a lot of information that's going on over there that we're not getting.
Mhm.
Casualties, those types of things. And and so you have one side saying this, one side saying that. Even with the U, and then we got AI, which is involved too. If I can control what you think is real, I control your reality.
Yeah.
I control the world. I'll tell you what's really going on in the Middle East. I'll tell you what's really going on in government. I'll tell you what's really going on, and I'll tell you what's really. And so
Yeah.
we're off balance. But wait a minute, what's real? Well, you have to find out what's real. You have to also make decisions. I don't think that's real based on what, it's a different way of life that we live in now. It's not like our parents or our grandparents. We live in a different world. And
Mhm.
so I just thought it was really, really well. It's the same thing with what this means. I think it means many things, this phenomenon, but it's not just about lasers and time travel. And what
Mhm.
those are wonderful things, and I leave that to greater minds than I. It's about the change in consciousness. But governments usually don't want people who change their consciousness, especially for more peaceful, for more enlightened, because you're harder to control. So
Yeah.
let's keep you focused on the back engineering. Oh, there's an orb over there. Did you see it? There's a USO going underneath our water. That's okay, wonderful. But there's other stuff going on. What about people who have more healing abilities? What about people who have more psychic abilities? What about people
Mhm.
who are talking about one consciousness, where we don't have to be so divided over religions and stuff like that? Why aren't we being told that?
Yeah.
Because there's no money in it. And we don't want that. We don't want that. We'll tell you, you just shut up and wait for us to dole this out.
Yeah.
We'll tell you when the oil prices will go down. We'll tell you about food. Don't worry about it. We'll get back to you. That's the attitude
Mhm.
that we're sheeple.
Mhm.
And most of us, not all of us, but most of us are okay with that. We want people to think for us, especially in scary times like this. And so it's easy to make life simple. It's either white or black, it's either right or wrong. There's no gray area in between. We want easy answers. And in the West, we've been raised with that. We've been
Yeah.
raised not to think critically, listen to your leaders, listen to your priests, listen to fear, fear, fear. And now I see people saying, wait a minute, not all, but people are saying, well, wait, I'm not sure I can roll with that. And that's the beginning.
Mhm.
I think what we're trying to do is to create a world. Well, I'm going to be 69 this summer. I have a daughter. Um, and I want her to have a better life than I did, like anybody would.
Mhm.
But I also realize I have a good life. I have gratitude. I don't have a lot of money. I can pay my bills. I go out we take a trip. Which I'm living according to the most of the people in the world. I'm wealthy, but
Yeah.
I'm a middle class person. But I think that when you keep those things to the forefront, your gratitude,
Mhm.
um, when you try to live what you believe, whatever that is, atheist, event, whatever it is, that's the way things will shift. Um, and you can't get distracted. There's a lot of distractions out there. Um, but this is a bigger game. What I wanted to say was I'm trying to build a world in my little way where I won't live to see it. I won't live to see the world I'm trying to build. I may
Mhm.
see some of it because like the generation before me and the generation before me. you know.
Mhm.
Um, but the world we're trying to build now, and it's hard, but if you can think like that, I think it's less stress on your nervous system because
Yeah.
people are getting crazy and oh, da, da, da. Yeah, all this stuff is happening now. But as long as you do your part, when you leave here, you don't have to worry about it. You've done what you've had to do, but just know that some of the work we're putting in, we may not get the benefits from, but the next generation will. And
Yeah.
that's what's important. That's what's important. Who was it? Tagore, the Indian poet, said, the Asian Indian, I'm not, as you know, he said that people who build, that when a person who plants a tree, knowing they will never live to see it full, understand the meaning of life.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. It's like you in that with that right there, you probably also have an understanding that you know what you're doing is you're leaving something behind for actually,
And that's,
something that's even you. You know what I
yeah,
mean? If if you're, if we practice like things like incarnation, that world that you may leave a seed for today is the same world you're gonna come into, right?
mhm, yeah. And that's what I think this phenomenon is about. I think many of our religions and some of our spiritual truths come from this phenomenon. I don't think that all these beings are want to sing Imagine with John Lennon with you. All, it's like people. You got some people who are benevolent and want to see a better world. You got some people who just watch everything. You got some people who maybe you want to mix the pot up. But they're out there, and once you say, I believe that I live in a populated universe, you start seeing life differently, and you have to ask different questions like, what is God? Who and what is God? All
Hmm.
right. What is it I really believe in? I remember I grew up that if you couldn't see, hear, taste, touch, feel, smell it, then it wasn't real. The old saying was, oh, come on, Michael, I'll believe that when I see it. But quantum physics now, and our ancestors knew this, they just didn't know the language like we know. No, it's not about I'll believe it when I see it. If you believe it, you can see it.
Yeah.
That's a whole different mindset.
Hmm.
you know? So we're moving. Life is going to go forward no matter what. There'll be people try to hold it back, but we're going forward. Life always goes forward.
Yeah.
Always. Governments come and go. People come and go. Empires come and go. But life is going. This is where we're going. You can try and slow it down, but eventually it'll run right over you. This is life. This is evolution.
It's like, and I think like sometimes like when I'm sitting by myself, it's like, man, I came into this world and it's like this body, this mind has like this thing. It wants to think about the past and think about the future and create this whole tug of war. And then I'm like, wait, if I could, if I can sit in the present and just think about myself for a
There it
moment,
is.
that's like, that's when I start to feel relaxed. It's
There it is.
like,
There it is. Yes. And when you're relaxed, anything is possible. I mean, all these spiritual disciplines, these practices, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, it doesn't even have to be that. It could be jogging. And when you stop and get still and
mm,
stay in the present, then everything is happening simultaneously, right? This is what quantum physics tells us. And so the past is gone. The future hasn't happened yet. So all you got is now. And now is the present moment. Any spiritual teacher will tell you that, any genuine spiritual teacher. And when people start getting that, you cannot control them. That's why all these people who were teaching this through the ages, that's why whether you were in Rome, Roman occupied Palestine, whether you're here in the United States, whether you were in India, those leaders, we have to get rid of those leaders. I'm not saying everybody's going to die a violent death. That's not what I'm saying. But you can see the threat. Love is the vibration that holds the world, the universe together. Love. And if that wasn't true, people wouldn't be trying to get rid of people who are preaching that. That's what
Hmm.
holds it together. That vibration, that high frequency. When you get that, you are powerful. And there's another set of challenges that will come with that. And that's why no one's talking about consciousness now in
Yeah.
relation to UFOs. They're talking about the material. Oh, we're
Hmm.
making these laser weapons. Oh, this how they can fly, and they can do. And a couple weeks ago, I was scrolling Facebook, which I try not to do so much. And there was a guy. He was a teacher, white brother with a shag haircut, so it was like in the '80s or '70s, and handsome guy. And he was talking to a class, and he was writing on a little whiteboard. And this is what he said. He said, it was powerful. He said, you can be in awe of these beings. You can be in awe of their power. You can be in awe of the way they can manipulate time. You can be in awe of their craft, how it goes in and out. He said, but other than that, they have the same soul as you or I. So they're not better than you and they're no worse than you. I was like, wow,
Hmm.
there it is. Because we give our power away so easily. Um, I used to do this UFO conference. Well, we talked about it before the show up in Lake Houghton, Michigan. Cold, brother, cold. They still have snow. But I went up there the first. I did 3 years in a row, and it was lovely. September 26th, that weekend every year. And I went to the other two. I was so cold I wouldn't even go outside. They were having sky watches and all that. I said, you'll freeze to death. So, but so we go up there and we go up there and there was a guy and his wife who, when they would come through this part of the country, they would take me to lunch. It was so sweet of them to do that. And they were big fans of the lectures and all that. One last year I didn't go. And he called me and he said, "Oh, I'm going to miss you this year." He said, "But when we come down there, we'll go to lunch again." I said, "Okay." And he said, "What a mess the world is in, huh?" He said, "I can't wait for the ETs to come and straighten all this out." And I didn't say anything, but I was like, so now they've taken the place of God. Then you've made gods of them. Okay. And I
Yeah.
don't even know if a God will come and clean it up, but we make a mess and you fix it. We're not responsible. We're not accountable. Fix this, fix it. It's like being a kid. Someone
Yeah.
else will come and fix it. Well, we made the mess. I mean, if someone comes in, be great. We could all use
Hmm.
a little help. But to wait for that, to passively wait, I'm waiting for the ETs to come and straighten all this stuff out. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy. But there are a lot of people in the UFO community, which is a vague word, but um, they, they're waiting for that. And then you got to go, well, where else in your life are you waiting for someone else to clean up the mess that you created?
Yeah. I think like a lot of people understand that though, but they just don't know where to start because it's so. I mean,
You
it's like
start
you
with
can.
yourself. You start with yourself. You
Yeah.
start with yourself.
Yeah.
Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You want more peace in the world, be more peaceful. You
Hmm.
want more love in the world, be more loving. Don't worry about fixing somebody else. Fix yourself. Fix
Yeah.
yourself.
I think like at
So
a
that's where you
community
start.
level, I think at
You
a
still got to
community
start
level,
with
they're
yourself. You still got
yeah.
to start with yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you're
You're not going to fix anybody else. If you fix yourself, if you work on yourself, the things you need will come to you.
hmm.
The things you need will come to you. The right book will come your way. The right opportunity comes your way. The right person comes your way because you're vibrating at a different
That's where I was
frequency.
gonna go. It's your
But
you're
but, but
you're
yeah,
altering like your energetic field
but
because that's
yes,
really it's like your and it's the field is reflecting, right?
right, right. But if you're worried about, well, I got to get these other people, I got to do, that's not going
Yeah,
to work because other
that's a
people
trap.
are on their journey. Well, it's also control. I'm going to fix you,
Yeah,
and we can fix that. No, start with yourself.
yeah.
That's where it starts.
When did you come to this when you're as you because you have for instance childhood having
Mhm.
these beings in your
Experiences.
life.
Yeah.
What point
Well,
was it like? Yeah.
okay. Let me be clear with that. I was on a spiritual path. Okay. I was raised in the Baptist tradition. Could give you Bible verses and off the top of my head. Sometimes I can still do that, but not as much as when my brain was younger. And so when I was getting away from that old time religion, if you will, and I started reading existential philosophers, Camus, Sartre, just broadening some African philosophers, and I was on a path. Started going to metaphysical church, affirmative prayer, reading alternative stories of the life of Jesus and others. So I was on this path. Okay. And I lost a lot of friends and stuff, but I was gaining more wisdom and knowledge. So I would say, now, why I'm saying this is because, okay, so I had my first contact that as an adult when I start these people, um, that was December 28th, 1989. So I was on that path probably 85, 86. And when they came, and why I say it's important, when they came, it speeded things up. But I was already on the path. And I say that because the spiritual path can be lonely. It's a lot of work. And I say that because I don't want you or your listeners to think, oh, they came and all of a sudden all this stuff happened. No, I was already on a path and I lost friends and I had to, what do I believe? I thought I was an atheist at one point. I was an agnostic at one point. I was going through, well, Buddhism is a philosophy and I meditate and all that, but I'm not a Buddhist. But you can be a Muslim, you can be anything and practice that kind of discipline and stuff. But I was already on this journey and about who am I? What am I? What is it I really believe? I know what my parents believe, and I know what I say I believe, but what do I believe? I didn't know. So I started reading and studying and doing these things. And then I had that first encounter. And then when I started seeing them and different races of them, different species, my life began to change. But your life can change from an NDE, a near death experience. Your life can change from having a tantric sexual experience. I remember a therapist saying that one day he was jogging in San Francisco at dawn and he was running and he said, I can't explain it, but I stopped and I watched the sun come up. And he said, and all of a sudden, I wasn't my body. I was the sun. I was the birds. I was the tree. This
Wow.
oneness. So you can get it many, many ways. I happen to get mine from these beings coming to see me and through meditation, that kind of thing. Um, but that's when it happened for me. When I was in New York, I was a mess. I was in the theater. I was drinking and drugging and sexing. I was living a fast life. I was young and talented, and they never said to me, or no one said to me, you shouldn't do that. But when they came, the consciousness changed, and it was like, this is not the greatest life for you. You can keep doing it, but it's not going to end well. And so I had a couple incidents where I almost killed myself from too much drugs. and drinking, and I stopped. I stopped. I didn't have to go to a 12-step program. I just stopped. But everybody doesn't get that chance. But I'm sure their hand was there. They didn't make it, they didn't stop it. No one came in to save me. You get
Mhm.
choices in life, and you got a choice. You got love or fear. You got to keep doing this and keep doing that. Free will to me means I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
People, we can do anything we want as long as we know the consequences. I can get
Mhm.
up on my roof and jump off if I want to, not the smartest thing, but you can do it, but know
Yeah.
that you're going to go splat. That's free will. That you have a cause and an effect. You can do anything you want as long as you know, and I'm talking about good as well, but you can
Yeah.
do anything you want as long as you know that there's a repercussion.
Yeah. I find it just a simple thing, when I remember to tell myself to make a choice, what kind of day do I want? And say it out loud. I'm going to choose to be happy today. No matter what I'm going to be doing today. It normally
Well,
might
no
be
matter
something
what
that's not going to make
happens
me
to you,
happy, but
and no matter what happens to
yeah.
what happens to you. Yeah, but that's how powerful we are.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it is.
choose. you know you know how it is. You can I can go. When I was younger, I could give these talks, and everybody, "Oh, that was wonderful, da 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 da." One person may say, "Well, found it interesting, but I wasn't sure." And out of 10 people could say they like what I did, what would I dwell on? Not the 10, the one person. You don't have to do that.
Mhm.
Everybody's got an opinion, and so I choose, what am I going to focus on? And that's power.
Yeah.
That's power. That's quantum physics. What you focus on, you create. What you focus on, you create. So if I
Mhm.
want to focus on what's going on Pennsylvania Avenue 24/7, that's going to consume me. But if I start saying, I can only do so much, no one's calling me about the war, no one's calling me about this, so I can't control that. The things that changed my life were, and I'm talking about internally, I stopped having to be right, and I stopped worrying about things I couldn't control. Those two things.
Mhm.
And my life, for the most part, is smooth. I have my challenges, got to pay bills, got to do this, that, and the other. But I gave up having to be right, and I gave up um, worrying about things I have no control over.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
Hmm. So looking at where you're at right now with your experience in the ETs, like where does that sit with you now, like in your own space?
You mean, okay, really and truly?
Hmm.
I don't even talk about it unless I'm on a show like yours, or if I go do Ancient Aliens, and they don't ask me about my personal experiences. But
Okay.
I don't, you know why? Well,
That's why I asked it, because I was thinking that I was like,
well, no,
it
they don't
sounds like
ask. They
he's
know
more,
about it. They
yeah.
know about it now. But now there's so many experiencers. Everybody's had an experience.
Hmm.
You know, and more people are talking about it. So I'm
Yeah.
just one of many people. So to me, it is something that has happened in my life, but it doesn't define my life.
Yeah.
When I first started, when these events first started happening, I had a good friend who was a psychic, a very talented psychic. Didn't know he was a psychic. He took a class, and he discovered, I mean, he was a pure clairvoyant, very accurate. He died
Mm.
young from illness. His name was Michael Gene Ashley. I met him. He was another actor in New York. One day, well, he told me, I'd never mentioned it to anybody. And one day I went to him for a reading, my first time, and he said, "When you come to my house, you should tell me when you're bringing company." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You know what I mean." And I lied. I said, he said, you got some people around you. They look like elves. He said, they're with you now in my house. He said, and they have something to do with outer space stuff. Anyway, that's how gifted he was. So anyway, so he would give me readings every now and then, and he would tell me about spiritual stuff and with them. And so every time I went to him, I would go, gee, tell me what they want to do. Tell me, what did they tell you anything? And I was getting on his nerves. And he said, look, let me tell you something, man. He said, there's more to your life than this. But I couldn't hear it then. And he said, I know it's big, but there's more to you. And if they come through me, I will tell you, don't I always? He said, but there are other things that mean, and I couldn't hear it then because
Mm.
I had put myself in a box, you see. And now I know what he was talking about. But there was a voice inside me, like, this is shameless promotion, but I was getting tired of being the space minister, right? People were only they only see me as the UFO minister. So, and you know about my UFO books, and people can go to my website, michaeljscarter.com,
Mhm.
or they can go to Amazon. So I had written these books. I wrote a book called God Consciousness, which is a meditation manual for 30 days. I wrote a book on healing and prayer, okay? And my last book I wrote like 2 years ago, it's called Enlightenment. It's a book of sermons about race, philosophy, religion, spirituality. I wrote those books so I wouldn't be pigeonholed. Now I am pigeonholed because I'm really the only one of very few public ministers who talk about this as an experiencer and that kind of thing. But I'm so glad I wrote those books. I had no idea I'd be where I am now. But now, like yesterday, I preached at a different church. I didn't preach at my UU church, Unitarian Universalist Church. This Methodist church called me. And I have two resumes. See, I have a resume. I have two. I have a bio for UFO stuff, and I have a bio for church stuff. Because I don't talk about this in church. They don't call me to talk about this.
Mhm.
But I'm so glad because I'm a father, I'm a writer, I teach a class on A Course in Miracles. I'm a healer. I'm a husband. I like to read. I do yoga. I love to swim. I have a lot of interests, but I was putting myself in just UFO.
Yeah.
That's it. My life is bigger than that. And so that's where I stand with it. People call me and I counsel people. I do pastoral care. I do pastoral care, but with experiences as well. But it's so ingrained in me now. I don't feel like I'm different from anybody else. I am an experiencer. I'm also a minister. But I don't like people said to me, well, you don't talk about this. It's part of my life. If you had a near death experience, hopefully after a while, and it changed you, or you had some type, you're not going to talk about it all the time. Some things you'll keep to yourself because it's private. But I just encourage people, come out of the box.
Yeah.
Come out of the box. It's your life, you know, and you want to live it because time goes like that. I'm 69 in July, brother. So let's say I get another 15, 20 years. Maybe, we don't know. Look, look how fast I can tell you how fast 69 years went.
Mhm.
15, 20? Huh, come
Yep.
on, man.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. This is it.
Mhm. Like yesterday I asked my kid, I was like, so what do you think about ETs and UFOs and stuff? And she was like, I don't care. And I was like, that's pretty good. I like that, and like
Yeah.
I talked to her a lot about like self-love. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like
How old is
love
she?
yourself. She's like 14.
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
turning 14.
yeah. She's an old
So
soul, though. She's an old soul.
yeah,
She's
I
an
know
old,
she is.
and yeah, and my daughter is too, and she's 20.
Hmm.
And that's the world, you're building the world for them that you may not live to see. And I'm sure it means she doesn't care, but it's just part of life. She doesn't
Yeah.
have all these preconceived notions. They exist or they don't, that's to me is wisdom. And she's got it at 14 or 15.
Yeah, I think like right now it's just like hyped up, but I think maybe 15, 20 years we're going to see a whole nother humanity that's now circled back on itself. And like you said, focusing on these topics of consciousness. What is consciousness? And in this human species is a very unique species in that it has, these abilities that we don't even know anything about yet. We hear about them, and we some people might have it, be in tune with them. But in that stage right there, I think like as humans circle back to themselves, and now we're this is old news, and now we're kind of like, this right here is the new mystery. Like we're circling back to what it means to be in this human species, be in this human experience as these souls, and then galactically. I mean, what am I saying right now? You know what I mean? Where am I going? Like, what do you think? Like, what's a guy like me talking about?
Well, no, I think what you're saying is that once we tap into the full potential,
Hmm.
then you have to ask the question, what does it mean to be human again? We have to reevaluate that from a
Hmm.
consciousness perspective. Okay. And so, and I think that that's a visionary perception that you have. I don't know if I don't want us to be too focused on human in the sense of the ego where we're so self-absorbed. But I think that but what you're saying is whether it's religion, whether it's art, I think what you're saying is whether it's art, whether it's education, whether it's finance, what are the possibilities now? Because we're thinking differently. We're thinking out of the box. And maybe we'll be doing more telepathy. Maybe we'll be doing more psychic stuff. Maybe we'll be doing more channeling. We'll be pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human
Hmm.
because we're in these bodies, but we're more than the bodies. You use the word soul. So, so what does it mean to be human now? What are those possibilities? Telepathy, healing, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient. How will how will we be able to use that, harness that energy to feed people? Less competition and more cooperation. What does it mean to be human now?
Hmm.
I do this class on A Course in Miracles, and every Tuesday from 1 to 2:15, and we talk about some of these things, metaphysics, and it's interesting because every if someone's talking about a mistake they made or something they did, they go, I'm human, and I'm trying to get them to see that okay, you're saying, yeah, I'm human. I made a mistake or whatever. But there'll be a time when human it doesn't have to mean mistake. You'll
Yeah.
say, yeah, I'm a human, and it's not a down thing. I'm only human, Okay, but only you take, I'm a human being. I'm a new human being. And this is so it's not always, yeah, I got in an argument with my wife. I wish I had handled it better. I'm only human. No, I got in a conversation with my wife, and boy, we were really vibing on this thing, and we came together, and, boy, I mean, it just feels great to be a human being. That kind of attitude.
Hmm.
So that's what I hear you saying.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm off, but I think some of that is what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, like I think a lot about like when we talk about new consciousness coming in and our awareness is changing. And I certainly feel like my awareness is changed a lot. And it's, previous to how when I got into all this stuff, I was this is 5 years ago when I started getting into all this. Now, before that, I was really sucked into like ancient aliens. That's ancient aliens, like really tied together a lot of the questions I had when it came to religion and the ETs and human history and this planet. But it was when I got into QHHT that I was like, whoa, there's something else going on that I never knew existed, like a type of conversation. And I
What
felt
is
like I was
QQHT?
QHHT by Dolores Cannon. She had
Oh,
like a
got it. Got some of her books over there. Yeah.
okay. So but yeah, when I started getting into that, I was like, whoa, there's this that whole awareness within this community. I started to maybe adapt with it. And now it's altered my awareness.
Yeah.
And I
It
feel
changed.
like,
It
yeah.
changed you. And I'm glad you said that because people go, consciousness, what are they talking about? At its most basic level, we're talking consciousness and awareness are the same thing.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying for our audience. So what is conscious? What are they talking about? It's a fancy word for being aware and an
Yeah.
expanded awareness. And so um, most people, I mean, many people, I can't say most, they don't get it. They think, well, it means being woke. Yeah, it could be, but you are awake. You're woke. You're awake. You're out of the dream that we're all separate. You're out of the dream that race is this and sexuality is this and this is wrong and this is right. You're out of the dream, and so you've woken up. When they asked Buddha, "Are you a god?" No. Are you a prophet? No. Are you a healer? No. What are you? He said, "I'm awake." And so you see past these illusions. That's consciousness
Mm.
for your listeners. And yeah, once Oscar Wilde said that once you stretch your consciousness or your imagination, it can't go back. It's not like a rubber band, it goes back. Once you stretch it, you can't go back. You can't unsee,
Yeah.
right? And again, going back to what we talked about almost an hour ago, was just that then you become powerful, hopefully more compassionate, more loving, but then you become a threat to powers that be because now we can't contain you.
Mhm.
Now we can't because you've gone beyond. And that's hard. You're harder to control now. We can't use the old fear tactic on you. We can't deceive you because you're aware. Your consciousness has expanded. And that's part of growth, that's part of evolution and the challenges that come with it.
Yeah. I mean, like, so like the kind of like the perception that's kind of imposed on us through these media, that whole thing, it's such a small like window of what is actually happening with what they're doing. And
Yes.
they're just giving you a little piece of what they want you to hear. And
There you
it's
go.
like maybe like a 2 to 5% little window of what they're actually doing over there. And it's a good reason, like you said, to just, what, I'm not going to be concerned with that shit because what they're feeding me anyway is BS,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it lowers your vibration.
Yeah. And to put that simply too, your vibration is just your, it's like being in a good vibe and being in a shit vibe, right?
It's your consciousness. You
Yeah.
can feel it. You
Hmm.
you know how it feels to be around people who are more positive or their energy's different. You know it when you shake somebody's hand and the voice says, "I got to watch out for this person," or "Boy, I think I'm going to like this." That's your vibrate. That's your trusting your inner guidance, your spirit, call it your intuition, call it what you will. We know about it. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah. I tried to leave this open-ended. Like when I started to listen to you on Jeff's show, I was like, I like how I looked at your site and I was like, man, you're kind of like all over the place, kind of like the way I feel. I mean, it's not just you're not just focused on one thing, you're kind of all over. And but I really like how our conversation was more grounded to, you know what I mean, to just being and learning to be with yourself and learning to create your own reality, that
Mhm.
kind of thing is I think like that to me is what we're most of us are kind of like, that's what we're kind of centering on right now.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's not divorced from ET. It's not. I think that the beings who are here that want us to grow up and not blow ourselves up and kill each other over race and all that, I think this is part of what they're asking us to do, is to change our perceptions of the world and each other, and to own our own power and to learn how power works. How does power work? I'm not just talking about your personal power, but even the political power and the forces that be that are with us now. Um, how does power work? How do people keep that power? How do they keep their secrets? It's good to know and to watch how that works. Um, but I don't necessarily think it's divorced from ET, but if even if I had not had those experiences, and I'm glad I did,
Mhm.
I would be on this path because that's the path I was on anyway. About what does it mean to be a good human being? What does it mean to love my neighbor as myself, to at least try? What does it mean to be a co-creator with God or whatever you think or whoever you think is in charge or in all this? What does that mean? And so those are the questions, because healthy religion, not dysfunctional religion that we see now, healthy religion, healthy philosophy not only teaches you how to live, but it prepares you to die, to have a good death, to look back and not have regrets, or not to have a lot of regret. And so those are the questions, not necessarily how much money do I need, or, how much tech do I need, or whoever has the most toys wins. That's not it, because you're going to leave all this behind. The body, you're going to leave all this behind. My Reiki table, my plants, my people, I'm going to leave them. So what's going to be left? My spirit. And
Yeah.
so how do I enrich that? How do I raise that vibration? How do I connect? How do I become less um uh vengeful and petty? And that's what we're talking about here. And those things will attract and draw. You'll have some psychic experiences. You'll have some paranormal, but that's not spirituality. Those are things that can come with it. But we don't want to mistake that
Mhm.
for spirituality. That's not. Those are some of the things that can happen. Oh my God, I saw something that happened, and before it happened, that's beautiful, beautiful. But don't mistake that for spirituality. Those are some, I know people who are not the most spiritual people in the world, and they have those things occasionally. I know people who do Reiki. I would not even let them put their hands on me. Not that they're bad people, but their life is a mess. I don't want that vibration.
Mhm.
So this is where it is. And I remember, who was it? There was someone talking about the ET cell. They were upset. Was it Bob Lazar? It was someone who was talking about, well, they call us they call our bodies vessels. Well, they are vessels. This is because your spirit's inside. That's not necessarily a negative thing. And they hype it
Mhm.
up. Oh, like, well, yeah, your body is a vessel. It's the
Yeah.
vessel you need to be on Earth now. But when you
Yeah.
don't need to be here anymore, you get it. So what's the big deal? Bob Lazar says ET's called about. Okay, well, so what? What does that mean? It's evil. What do you want me to do now? So I get frightened? It's a container. You can call it what
Yeah.
you want, but it's not you. You've been to a funeral. You've seen a dead body in front of you. It looks like a hump of clay. You can see that the spirit is gone. So,
Mhm.
this is all I'm saying. The hype of the world, all this bombardment and negativity. When you have your center, when you do your work, whether it's prayer, whether it's being out in nature, whether you're meditating, whether you're doing your work, all that stuff kind of bounces off. You start to see differently. You don't get so hyped up.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you believe in reincarnation, you've been here before. I know I'm an old soul, and I don't
Mhm.
get upset with the empire's crumbling. Well, I've been in other empires that have crumbled. No, I'm not
Mm.
nonchalant about it. I know I need to vote for who I want. I know I need to go through but I've seen this before. This is not
Yeah.
the first time that Babylon has crumbled, Rome has crumbled. Now the United States has crumbled. We're just doing it earlier.
Mm.
Empires in the things come and go. Things ebb and flow.
Yep.
You don't believe the hype. And gratitude is the attitude.
Yeah. That gratitude is like for me has become the most important like way of kind of grounding myself.
Mhm.
It's like when I take that moment to have gratitude for everything around me in my life. And then that's when I start to be like, I am the co-creator of my life.
That's right.
And
And
it's
that's how you
all and
create abundance
it's
too.
all amazing. The
There
whole
you go.
experience is
There it
amazing.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And people who don't have that vibe, it doesn't make them bad people, but they may say, man, you're a fool. Or what are you talking about? Because they've been kept in this little bubble. Religion can keep you there, organized, dysfunctional religion, not all religion. Governments keep you there. It's all about how can I control these people?
Yeah.
And you're doing, whether you look at the life of Buddha or Jesus or Lao Tzu, or they had to go through the same thing we had to go through. They didn't have the technology that we had. Maybe they did, but they also had those forces that saying, "We'll tell you what's fake news.
Mm.
There's no kingdom within you. What are you, nut? There's no kingdom. What are you talking about? Rome is the kingdom. What are you crazy? And you don't be talking about that. You don't be. They've all had that. And when you wake up from that, if you're fortunate, if
Mhm.
not this lifetime, maybe next lifetime, then you start getting more power. And you see love. Boy, love is wow. Love can change, I'm not talking about, oh my God, I'm so happy, I love you, da, 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 da. I'm talking about the love where you see things with an equanimity that I'm not going to hold a grudge against you, that
Mhm.
I can understand what you're going through. I may not agree with it, but there's a compassion. The Buddhists use the word compassion instead of love. But whatever word you want to use, in the West we use it so much it doesn't mean anything. But with Scott Peck. There's so many definitions of love. Of course, there's Paul and Corinthians, but what Scott Peck said, love is when I'm real. How do you put it? When I'm willing to stretch myself for your growth, for your spiritual growth. It's one definition. I'm willing to
Mm.
stretch. I'm willing to even to inconvenience, but for your growth. I think that's wonderful.
That's kind of like I think that's kind of falls into line with self-love, right? Because
Mhm.
you're really seeing that by me loving myself, and by default I'm going to end up loving everything else
Well,
around
yeah,
me.
you're right. You can't, if you can't love yourself, that's why we never finish the sentence. We always say, love your neighbor. But the rest of that is as yourself. And if I can't love
Mm.
myself, I'm certainly not going to be able to love you. I think that Thich
Mhm.
Nhat Hanh, and there's no definition of love. What was it, Rumi? I know Course in Miracles says, I can't give you a definition of love, but I can tell you that you need to look at the ways in your life where you block it.
Mm.
Okay. It's hard, there's no one definition of love, but you can look at your life and see, oh, I block love from my wife this way. I block love from my kids this way. I block love because Thich Nhat Hanh, he said that all love has understanding in it. I can't love you unless I understand. I don't have to agree with what you do. I don't have to agree, but I'm trying to understand why you feel that way, why you speak that way, where you're coming from. Because on the road to love, you have to have understanding, not agreement, but understanding. Where, I would just want to remind people, that you got love or fear. and also to be easy on yourself. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to say things. You're going to do things.
Hmm.
But that's part of what it is to be a human being as well. There's the old Zen thing: 7 times down, 8 times up. You fall down, you just don't stay down.
Yeah.
But don't try not to be afraid. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening in the weather, in governments, and financial stuff. Um, and just try not to. The world has to go through what it's going through. We have to. We we we
Yeah.
we had we had times to change, but we wouldn't do it. We chased that dollar. We chase
Yeah.
power, but don't try not to live in fear. Try not
Hmm.
to um, make decisions out of fear, but prepare. The gas prices are up. We're fortunate here right now. We're probably a little bit over $4 a gallon. This war will probably last to the midterm. So when we go to the grocery store, we get extra canned food. We get big things of water, not for doomsday scenario, not to go, but let's say the grid goes down. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a false flag event. Maybe there's a real event. The grid goes down, you have no electricity, you have no power. See, we went through that with Hurricane Helene, just a
Mm.
couple, when people's houses were floating down the street. We couldn't buy
Mm.
anything unless you had cash in the house. We couldn't buy. Everything was flooded, and when things opened,
Mm.
we couldn't buy food unless you had cash. So you keep some cash in the house. You have, if you I don't camp out, but you got your little stove that you need. You may need a generator at some point. But I'm not coming from, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Well, no, this is the world we live in now. And so the Strait of Hormuz, a lot of stuff comes through there. It's not coming through. So the prices are going up. So I'm just that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Be prepared if you feel that you're being called to that. You got to follow your inner guidance.
Hmm.
Um, and you can make healthy decisions. Don't close your heart, no matter what. Don't keep your mental hygiene, right? Don't watch too much TV, just enough that you can be misinformed because they're not telling us the truth.
Hmm.
But just enough, and then you turn it off. That's enough for today.
Yeah.
Read something, read some poetry in the morning. Get out there and take your shoes off and walk on the grass.
Yep.
Do your prayers and meditations. That's what I want to leave people with, because
Cool.
we're going to go through some tough times, but you can get through them. But you always want to keep this open,
Okay.
because if this closes down, the gig is over. Now you're part of the problem, not the solution. So that's what I'd like to leave.
Cool. Well, I'll have all your information and description and make sure people can find you. And
Yeah. Tell Amazon. .com. But just type in Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. Go to my website. I will respond. You got my email, michaeljscarter@gmail.com. I can send, I'm very reasonable. We can set up counseling by Zoom if you want. I can send you distant healing if you're in need of that. Everything is reasonable. And we can keep the conversation going that way as well. But I encourage you to read my books. I think you'll find something in there that you can take away with.
cool. Thank you, man. Oh,
All right, brother.
let me go ahead and stop the recording real quick.